Hail yard man. Yeah, yard man, don't respect. I want to hear. I respect and love man to all Jamaica, no matter where in the world. One eye, like I own you. No matter where in this world I go, I am a Jamaican. No birth papers I have to show, cause I am a Jamaican. No matter where in this world I go, I am a Jamaican. No birth papers I have to show, cause I am a Jamaican. I have Jamaican walk, them here Jamaican talk, cause I am a Jamaican. Them here Jamaican chat, them say Jamaican bop, cause I am a Jamaican. Now everywhere in this world I go, I am a Jamaican. And no ID I will have to show, cause I am a Jamaican. Them say, Lord, what a boy can run, that is a Jamaican. When them see the Rasta man from Jamdong, that is a Jamaican. Dressmaker, baker, tailor, shoemaker, market, woman in a donkey cart. Rivers and streams, fountains and mountains, in a Jamaica we have it all. Now anywhere in the world I go, I am a Jamaican. No birth papers I have to show, cause I am a Jamaican. When you hear that music I play out a door, it must be Jamaican. When you smell the food I cook when the breeze blow, got to be Jamaican. Beautiful smile, God-fearing people, known across the world, yet you're so simple. Yeah, and it's not your fault that you're so loving and kind. Oh, jam down, sweet Jamaica, jam bless this island of mine. No matter where I go, I am a Jamaican. No ID I man need to show, cause I am a Jamaican. Oh, them people they laugh so much, got to be Jamaican. They have overcome struggles and been through so much, got to be Jamaican. You're not all, you're not tough, you got to be Jamaican. Resilient and brave, industrious, yes we are Jamaican. No matter anywhere in this world I go, I am a Jamaican. No ID I man have to show, I am a Jamaican. Them say, Lord, what a boy can run, must be a Jamaican. When them hear the reggae music from Jamdong, got to be Jamaican. Dressmaker, baker, tailor, shoemaker, market, woman in a donkey cart. Rivers and streams, fountains and mountains, Jamaica nice no.
Welcome Kevin Downswell and Randall Positive, Bob Wire. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid. My shepherd, he walks beside me all the way. Always protected, I will not fear. Oh, God is there, he's walking by my side. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid.
Good evening, good night, good night, everyone. How you doing?
Never sleeping. Who rule over us? I will stand the tallest. Every knee shall bow to Jehovah. That's why me I call it. Challenge. Shelly than a rock, see closer than a brother. Always have me back.
How are you doing this evening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Barrelnation.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid. Why you sit down, swell? My shepherd, he walks beside me all the way. No weapon formed against me. I will not fear. No.
It is a Barrelnation, Bizcoach, Jamaica Emancipation Reflections 2020. Welcome to you. Good night. I must big up all my Barrelnation people and big up all our visitors. So if you are visiting for the first time, just type visitor so we can acknowledge you.
Darkness disappear. Pure wisdom and knowledge just so the real light appear. Evil weapons start to rise. My call to their surprise. Cause angels watching over me. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid. My shepherd, he walks beside me all the way. I will not fear. No, God is there. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid. When I can't stand no more, only my fall. He said.
So, of course, Emancipation, ladies and gentlemen, is a very significant time in the history of the land that we know and love.
When there was no way, turn my night to day, keep my enemies at bay. I've got a feeling it's gonna be alright. My brother, my sister. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid. My shepherd, he walks beside me all the way. I will not fear. No, God is there. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not afraid.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we are not afraid.
Don't be afraid. No. The shepherd, he walks beside you all the way. I will not fear. No, God is there. I don't know about you. No weapon formed against you can prosper.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, no weapon that is formed against the children of God shall prosper, and no weapon that is formed against Jamaica shall prosper. It's a very blessed land. It is a land that I believe strongly that has found favor with God. We have been known as a God-fearing country. Yes, a lot of wickedness go on there, evil go on there, but that happens all over the world. But of course, I strongly believe that Jamaica holds a very special place in the heart of God. All right, so in the next 10 minutes or so, we'll be going into our presentation. And it's going to be a very, very special presentation, as a matter of fact. All right, so let me play this song right now from Jermaine Edwards and Christopher Wright, Rise Up.
Every day, evil's increasing. Look all around, people are dying. So much immorality in this world. While we get up every week playing church, shouting kid compensate for his presence. Emotion replacing bearing fruits of evidence. Harvest is ripe, but laborers few. Cause sin is drawing us from doing what we must do. Rise up, rise and take your place. It's time to break those chains.
Not by by might, but by my spirit, said the Lord.
Satan wants to kill and destroy you. Doesn't care how old you are. All he wants is your soul to be lost. It's time to start walking in your purpose. Seeking God is where they focus. The Lord is our fortress and strong tower.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. How are you doing this evening? It's good to have you. And I see my friends from England up because it's their time of day this. Their time of day this. All right, so as we get the warm up and the roll call going, I am expecting to see some different persons, some new persons joining us on this presentation. I'm seeing my Barrelnation people there. Brian, what's up? What's up, my boss? Yeah, so of course I see Barbara, I see Jeanette, Mommy Evelyn, Catherine, I see Auntie Marcia earlier on, Auntie Novelettes. Of course, my wife is there, Joanne Bennett, Vinette Lewis, only one person. So I see Maureen March. Pop a long time I don't see Maureen March. You know. Look at that. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So I need all the new persons to type visitors, right? I think I want to get a feel as to what is happening from the other side, right? There's only one person I see that acknowledge themselves as a visitor. All right, so yeah. All right, so welcome to you all. Of course, this week is a very important week for Barrelnation and a very, very important week for Jamaica. All right, so on the 1st of August, Barrelnation celebrates its anniversary. And there's like so many things that we look forward to, so many things we take the time to celebrate over that period of time from the last August 1st until the next August 1st. And every single year, there's always something to celebrate. All right, so I just want to ask you all to look forward to tomorrow. Two programs tomorrow. So after the program tonight, we'll be having another program tomorrow at 7 a.m. in the morning, and that will run until about 10. And then at 9 p.m., that is when we have the awards and some presentations and all kind of things. All right, so make sure that you are there. So I say, okay. So visitor now, I say Iron River, and I see Dane Farquharson. Okay. All right, good. All right, so right now I am just gonna play one final song, and then we go into the presentation with our presenter, and I will introduce him to you at that time.
Where I was standing, the sun was shining. I felt so low in my spirit. In my pain I was drowning. But God saw something in me, restored my life and set me free. Now I can see the sunshine. I can't believe this is me. I'm above all my troubles. I'm above all my pain. I'm above all my past, and my life will never be the same again. I'm above all my troubles. I'm above all my pain. I'm above all my past, and my life will never be the same again. Many didn't have faith in me. Couldn't blame them, never knew I could achieve. Sometimes I wonder how I made it through those nights. I'm just thanking God I'm alive. I'm not crazy cause I talk to the homeless. I know their pain cause that was my test. Now I'm like an eagle soaring high above my sleepless nights and all the tears I cry.
We are above, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We are above all our troubles. We are above all our pain. Everything that comes upon us, we are above it. The Bible says we are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite to welcome firstly Dr. Reconel Simpson. Good morning, good evenings, good night, sir.
Good night. How are you doing?
I am blessed and highly favored. Good to go.
That's good. Same here.
All right.
I am blessed and highly favored as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to introduce to you the first presentation for the weekend, and this is coming from Bishop Dr. Reconel Simpson. Sir, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. I want to welcome all the viewers who are listening tonight and welcome to this pre-emancipation. In my mind, it's a celebration. It's a time of freedom and a time of movement where persons come together and enjoy their state of freedom. Well, I am a bishop and overseer in the New Testament Church of God. I oversee approximately 5 churches in St. Anne. I have been saved for a number of years, over 30 years, if I might add tonight.
Yes.
And I have been involved in ministry for that time. And I have traveled extensively in terms of ministering at conferences and conducting seminars in different countries. And I am also in the deliverance ministry as well.
Wonderful. All right, sir. Could you give us an idea as to what's the topic of the presentation this evening?
Well, what I'll be engaging my audience in this evening is exemplary leadership and their power of influence as it relates to pre-emancipation and thereafter. So we know that leadership is very crucial and important as we forge ahead. Even as it relates to slavery, it had to be that kind of a leadership that would have forged the movement ahead for persons to be free, hence liberation.
Wonderful. Okay, sir, you may go ahead. The floor is now yours.
Good night again to everybody. I am Bishop Dr. Reconel Simpson, as the moderator was sharing earlier. I want to speak to us tonight on exemplary leadership tonight and their power of influence, because we know as exemplary leaders, we carry certain influence and we have certain impact on people's lives. And so it is quite fitting tonight to have this discussion because we're entering into our emancipation phase, and I know that everybody's preparing for it. And so as we forge that, we want to look at the impact actually of exemplary leadership. Now, the truth is, I want to also acknowledge Lisa Clark. She's a person who has spearheaded this operation in terms of this platform that is being used. And I want to give acknowledgement to her as well. She's an author, she's a prophetess, and she's very much involved in the ministry and the work of the Lord. And if it were not for her, then this event tonight would not have been a reality. So I want to big up the prophetess, Lisa Clark, tonight. Now, as I am moving into exemplary leadership, a lot of persons might ask, what do we mean by exemplary leadership? Because this is a new term that has come on the street, right? And persons might be asking, what are we talking about exemplary leadership? But first and foremost, an exemplary leader or exemplary leadership are those leaders who have the ability. Yes, they have the ability, and they allow extraordinary things to happen. And how do they allow these things to happen? Exemplary leaders have the power to motivate. They have the power to inspire. They have the power to engage people. They have the power to create enthusiasm. Because why are they doing all of these things? It is towards a common goal. And so as they bring people together, they have that power to cause them to move towards the fulfillment or the commitment of goals. And so we can see that leadership is very important, because when we talk about change and we talk about the impact of change, we have to have that kind of a leadership that will steer things, that kind of a leadership that will mobilize things and cause things to come into effect. And so when we talk about those exemplary leaders, we're talking about those persons who have the power to influence and to drive change. In fact, I believe that exemplary leaders are change agents because they are the ones who mobilize and they are the ones who create change. And so it is important tonight for us to know that exemplary leaders, there's something about exemplary leaders because they are non-prejudicial. And by this we mean they are very, very much concerned about humanity. They seek to pursue the good in humanity. And so when it comes down to justice and equality, that's what they promote, the exemplary leaders. And it goes beyond saying tonight that these leaders, doesn't matter your ethnicity, doesn't matter your social background or your racial background, it doesn't matter your political influence, it doesn't matter who you are. These exemplary leaders, what they are interested in is humanity. They are interested in seeing us move forging ahead. And so their common good is all about humanity. And so tonight we want to look at them because they have impacted, even as we speak, as we're entering emancipation, they have impacted that movement and they have brought about that change as it relates to freedom, and not only physical, but emotional freedom as well, because the mindset has been changed because of these exemplary leaders. And so I would say that they are trailblazers. Yes, these exemplary leaders, they are trailblazers. Not only that, they are innovators. They innovate the process. They drive the process and they ensure that the process is followed through. Not only that, they are explorers. They love to explore. And so when we look at the book that was written by the author Barry Husner and Jim Cousins, they identify 5 important core competencies of exemplary leaders. And these are very much important because when we talk about exemplary leaders, we're talking about leaders who are above the average, leaders who are the cutting edge, leaders who come to the table with best practices. And so they came with 5 key important competencies that I want to share with us tonight and kind of integrate it as it relates to the leadership of the ancient era that has brought about the change that we are now experiencing now. And one of the competencies that they spoke of is that of model the path. They say that exemplary leaders, they model the path. And what does this mean? This means that they lead by example. And we can see all of those leaders because when we look at the British Caribbean slaves, they were dehumanized for about approximately 150 years. And so men like William Niband, we have Thomas Clarkson, and we have Samuel Sharp, and these men, they were very much instrumental in the abolition of the slave trade and slavery itself. And so these men were very brave and they stood up front, they modeled the path, they just didn't talk, but they, in other words, they led by example, they created the right environment. And so exemplary leaders, they create the right environment for change. They have their values and they set their values because they believe in values. They believe that injustice should not be amongst humanity. And so they have their values that promote equality and fairness among all. And so they set their values. In other words, they set the expectations that they expect of others as well. And so these exemplary leaders, they are searching for opportunities because they are very innovative and they want to bring out the best in people. And so they are always looking for opportunities where they can harness so as to bring out the best in individuals. And one thing about these leaders, they grow, they grow the people and they mobilize them and they allow people to be advanced. And so when we talk about this kind of leadership, we're talking about a leadership that is for change. You cannot be static. These leaders are not static. They always want to bring about change. Another competence that the authors mentioned was inspire. They inspire a shared vision. And let me share something with you as we speak about the shared vision. A lot of us believe that when we have visions, they are not supposed to be shared. One person comes with an idea or comes with a vision, and then it is cascaded down. within the organization, within the different settings. But that is not so about these exemplary leaders. What they do is that the vision, they identify the vision, and not only that, but they share the vision with those who are very much instrumental and very much will be a part of the process, of the change process. And so they involve the people and the stakeholders. And so when they are involved, what happens is that there's a level of commitment. And these exemplary leaders ensure that there's a level of commitment among those stakeholders. And once persons are committed to a task, once persons are committed to a particular charge, once persons are committed to a particular goal, then trust me, they will work tantamountly towards the achievement of that goal. And so these exemplary leaders, we can see they communicate, and not only that, they give support. And when they give that support, then other persons also log on and they also give that support as it relates to the vision, because the vision is shared and everybody is involved and everybody knows what the vision is. And so we see these persons, even our forefathers who were fighting for freedom. They did not just keep the vision among themselves, they shared it. Right? The Baptist ministers, they would meet with other persons, they would share the vision. The vision is that we want people to be liberated. We want people to be freed. We want people to have access to all the amenities of society, of the world. We don't want just a particular class of persons to have access or privilege to these amenities. We want all to have the privilege and the right. And so they forged the we-ness and the collaboration in a joint effort to bring about this change. And so when we talk about exemplary leaders, we're talking about persons who can challenge the process. Sam Char, Marcus Garvey, these men that I mentioned, Thomas Clarkson, they have challenged the status quo. They have challenged the process. They knew that injustice was something not to be among humanity. And so they challenged the status quo. And so these exemplary leaders aren't persons who are not going to sit down and allow for there to be injustice. They are going to challenge the status quo. And so they are going to be innovative and they are risk takers. Many of them have been martyred for the beliefs and for the values that they have upheld. But they did not worry about that. They challenged the status quo and they were very much risk takers. And these are the kind of leaders that we want in our today's society. Persons who are willing to take the risk. Persons who are willing to put themselves aside and to look at the greater good of mankind. And so these exemplary leaders have been our examples. They have been before us and they have charted the path for us. And we can use them as our benchmark. We can use them as the persons who have laid that foundation for us. And so they were the persons who challenged the process. In other words, they were trailblazers. They look at all angles. They didn't look just inside the box. They were not just narrowed or they have a narrowed mindset. They were very much at all angles. They were looking at all angles. And so they were very much adaptable and flexible in their approach. And so another competence that was shared about these exemplary leaders was that they enabled others to act. So they had the vision, but they knew that by themselves they could not bring about abolition of slavery. So they got the people, the common people involved. So these exemplary leaders, they have to enable others to act, because if you don't motivate others, if you don't drive them, then they will just sit there static and they will not move ahead. So what they did, they forged relationships. They were involved in teamwork. They're involved in joint efforts. We realize that we can't do this by ourselves. So we have to involve our other persons, the other stakeholders. And so they believed in joint efforts. Not only that, they created synergies among persons. Because when persons come, because we know divide and conquer, when we know when people are divided, and we can easily conquer them. So what they did, they created synergies among persons. So they unified the people. They were all about unification, and they unified, they brought people together in context, and they shared with people that this is the goal that we have, and this is the mandate that we have. And in order for us to achieve this mandate, as exemplary leaders, we need you to be a part of it. And this was what they did. They forged collaboration, and greatly something of great importance to identify that. They forged a level of trust, because persons will buy into something when they can trust the process, when they can trust those persons who are selling them the particular thing. And so they created that avenue for trust because they were men of integrity. They stood for justice. They stood for truth. They stood for brotherhood. They stood for peace. And they were not for war. And so that the level of trust that they forged among others was that people now believed in them and they were willing to sacrifice their lives for the greater good of mankind. And that is why we are free tonight, because there were persons who were willing to sacrifice their lives for the greater good of mankind. And these persons were very engaging. Yes, they engage people. They believe in they share the communal effort, and they believe that when people are engaged and when there's collaboration and people want to work and people want to get involved and people work towards a change. And so there's this company, I don't remember specifically in the United States of America, whereby they manufacture things. And the CEO of the company told his staff members that he doesn't want workers who are not trailblazers. He doesn't want workers who are innovators. So once you have an idea, don't sit with your ideas. Come, bring them to the table. He wants persons who can challenge the status quo. This is what is happening, but we know that there's something better, there's something different, and this person can stand up and they can challenge the status quo. And we have seen many who have done that, right? And because they have challenged the status quo, these are the results. This is the throughput. We have seen now, we can celebrate emancipation all over the world because this person challenged the status quo. Also importantly, as we talk about these exemplary leaders tonight, we have to realize that they encourage the heart. And what does this mean when we speak about encourage the heart? We know that people at times, especially when engaged in a process, sometimes we become weary, sometimes we become disheartened, sometimes we become frustrated, sometimes we actually want to give up because that's a human tendency. When we're trying and we're working towards a goal, and there are many milestones that are there, that are hindering, that are stopping us from achieving our goals. And so, humanly speaking, we become discouraged. But these exemplary leaders, we have to commend them. And we do have them in our today's society. These persons knew that people become discouraged, disheartened by the fact that they are not seeing the change that they want. And though they are in the process of the change, they are not seeing it. And so they become discouraged. And so these exemplary leaders, what they do is that they show care. They show appreciation and they show concern. And this is what is important as leaders. We have to show people that we care. We have to show a greater concern for the persons that are in our charge, the persons that we are in control of. We have to show greater care and appreciation. And these leaders, that's what they have done. They have put themselves aside and they have now focused on the greater good of mankind, humanity. And so that care, that appreciation, that concern, they have shown it. And hence they have seen the results that we are now seeing. Had it not been for them, then these results and what we are now experiencing, we would not have been experiencing it now. So we have many exemplary leaders, both in the contemporary and the religious circles. Yes. And these leaders, they have stood up against oppression. They have stood up against oppression, injustice. They have stood up against bullying. They have stood up against slavery and segregation. All of these things they have stood up, and many of them have been martyred as a result of their faith and their beliefs. But nonetheless, they decided that this is the greater good, and this is the mandate that we have. And so, as exemplary leaders, the mandate that we have to stand up and we have to forge ahead. We have to work everything. We have to work relentlessly towards the end result. And so, as we said tonight, these leaders have seen the importance and worth of fighting for just causes. They have fought for just causes. They have worked tirelessly and fearlessly in seeing transformation. So change and they have allowed others to follow them, and so they have created a catalyst for others and become trail blazers and changers in our society. And so as we look at from a religious perspective, we have men like Reverend Charles Finley, right? And Lister Clark spoke about it. Right? These men were fearless. These men stood up and they challenged the status quo. And they were all about mobilizing for change. And what happened? As a result of this, over 100,000 persons were converted, received salvation because of these persons, because they are exempt. They were, in fact, exemplary leaders. They believe that this is the change that needs to happen. And for the change to happen, these are the things that we have to put in place. And they were willing to sacrifice all of these things and put them in place for the change to come. And we have had that significant change. The Marcus Mosiah Garvey, two a very instrumental person in the change process, right? Who stood up against slavery and oppression. He promoted and channeled people to emancipate themselves. Very good thought from mental slavery, because he believed that the physical slavery would have kept you in the chains, the physical chains and the shackles. But he believed greater than that was the emotional or the mental slavery that people themselves were still undergoing. And so he wanted for that to shift. He wanted for there to be a change. And he said that it is time for mankind to emancipate, to free themselves of mental oppression, of mental rejection, you name it, of mental suppression. And because when your mindset and when you are mentally freed, then all aspects of your being are also freed. And so it is important for us to understand tonight that a lot of our exemplary leaders have been martyred. Yes, they have been martyred for their beliefs and for their values that they have upheld. But nonetheless, there are key things to observe tonight. They were martyred. You know why they were martyred? Because they were unselfish. They were fearless. They knew what the outcome in most instances would have been, but they didn't matter the outcome. We want people like this in our society. For there to be change, we have to have people who become fearless, who are willing to challenge the status quo, who are willing to put their lives at risk, because these leaders are in fact risk takers, or were in fact risk takers. And so they took the risk, because they were motivated, they were driven by change, by transformation, and they knew that they had to do certain things for that change to come about. And so they were motivated for reformation. And what do we see? These leaders have had a positive impact, a positive influence, a positive connection on people, on the lives of persons who they have led. And so it is that they have forged. What have they forged? They have forged something important. They have forged harmony among persons. So the device and the division that was there before, what they are trying to do, they are trying to move away from the device, because the truth is the mindset was about division. The mindset was about segregation. And what they have tried to do is that they have tried to move that mindset and to bring a more harmonious mindset where people can see themselves not as black or white or as Caucasian, but they can see themselves as human beings, having set purposes, having set goals, working tantamountly towards the achievement of these goals. And these, we say, are exemplary leaders because they are trailblazers. In fact, exemplary leaders bring out the best in people. They bring out the best in people because they are exemplary leaders, because they allow creative and innovative things to happen. And so they bring out the best in people because they harness the skills and the competencies that are in people. And so they believe to a great extent in talent management because they want to harness the skills. So at the end of the day, your purpose is achieved. At the end of the day, your purpose is completed. And so they work towards that. They don't suppress people. They don't discredit people. They work towards the greater good of mankind. And so we can see tonight, as we look at it tonight, they're influential. They're very much influential. And they love to take risks. Many of these persons have taken a lot of risk. We see, and I'm reading from Nixon quote, among the groups were David Ingraham, Charles S. Renshaw, and Theodore Weld, and all of these Amos Dresser. These men were on a mission, right? These persons are always on a mission. So when you talk about exemplary leadership, you must have a mission, you must have a mandate. So these men were on a mission, and what was their mission? The mission was to see justice and freedom within the natural and the spiritual environment in the Americas and across the globe. These men fought for freedom. And so freedom from all kinds of shackles from all mankind was the aim. As these leaders come to the table, they must have an aim. And so they had an aim, freedom. They wanted mental freedom. They wanted physical freedom. They wanted spiritual freedom. Because because when somebody's enslaved and somebody's in slavery physically, it also impacts the person emotionally and spiritually. And they wanted people to be loosed from that. And so what happened as a result of this? These persons worked together and they had to start through what? Changing the hearts and thoughts of men. That is what these leaders do, exemplary leaders. They change the heart and they change the thoughts of men. So once you have those negative thoughts, and once you have those thoughts that are very destructive, they change those thoughts into positive, uplifting thoughts. And this is what we call exemplary leadership. And finally, as we look in the scriptures, we see Paul addressing Timothy, who was also an exemplary leader. He was to become a leader. And Paul was admonishing him that he must, in context, exercise sobriety in everything that he did. And so Paul says that everything that you do, your character, your word, your conversations, charity, spirit, everything that you do must be in sync with the word. So everything that you do, you must do in faith. You must do it in purity. You must do it with charity. You must do it according to the spirit. You must, in other words, your conversations must be in sync with the word of God because you're an exemplary leader. And an exemplary leader model the path. They set the example for others to follow. And so I say tonight, within our society, and we have benefited from these exemplary leaders. We have benefited from their leadership styles and what they have brought to the table and the lessons they have taught us and what we have learned from them. And so tonight, we want to say that we want more of these exemplary leaders in our society, in this contemporary society that we are all a part of. We want for persons to know that, hey, we can make a change. We can make a difference. We see it happen on television where there's still segregation, but we want this kind of a leadership to be risk takers, to say that we can make this change. We can change the mindset of people. We can motivate them and we can inspire them for the change, for them to also accept the change and for them also to become change agents because we are creating that catalyst. And so tonight, let us be, as I'm saying to us, be exemplary leaders, leaders who make a difference, leaders who make a change in people's lives. I thank you very much. Is there any question?
Wonderful, wonderful presentation there, Doc. Wonderful presentation. And that is a very, very interesting topic, you know what I'm saying? And even when I think about the whole process of emancipation and all that sort of thing, there were individuals who, through their own leadership and foresight, saw it necessary to push for emancipation, even as it relates to our independence, our political independence. Because people, there's a difference. Political independence is different from economical independence, and
very
so on.
true.
What Jamaica has is political independence, where the country has sovereignty over its choosing its leaders, and those leaders by constitution are mandated to take care of the affairs of the country. Right,
Very
Bishop?
true. Yes, very true. Yes.
All right, good. Now, I am going to be dropping one song, and then I come back to you because there are some questions I want to ask you, and if there's anyone who would like to ask some questions too, because in this time, in this very special time that we are in, even on the spiritual side of things, the biblical side of things, we see where leadership is defining what happens to a set of people at any given time as we are in crisis. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, let me drop one of my favorite festival songs, and then I start to engage with Bishop on this topic.
This is the land of my birth. I said this is the land of my birth. I said this is Jamaica, my Jamaica.
All Jamaicans, it's your time now.
I will never leave her shores. I will never run away.
Except that part.
I will always believe in the black, the green, the gold, I say.
I'll run away and come back every now and again.
Shine great above the trials. We must face the test of time. As our people, they are strong and we are going to get along. Though some people say we are poor, but the progress you make, my friend, is not always a rich you are. I said this is the land of my birth. I said this is the land of my birth. I said this is Jamaica, my Jamaica.
Big boss, what going down in a Nigeria then? I think Jamaica have the prettiest women.
I said this is the land of my birth.
Okay, it's Kenya. Sorry, sir. Sorry, Kenya.
I said this is Jamaica, my Jamaica, the land of my birth.
All right. So of course it's almost 12 o'clock, so it's not yet Emancipation Day. So I'll be talking to Bishop now on the whole matter of leadership. And if there's anybody who want to ask any questions, you can type it in the comments or you can give me a call on WhatsApp at 1-876 363 1037.
They will love, they will help, they will give. If you wish, my friend, you can live. You will be.
And before some of you leave, we continue tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
This is the land of.
until 10 a.m.
I said this is the land of my birth.
Eastern Standard Time.
This is Jamaica, my Jamaica, the land of my birth. I said this is the land of my birth. I said this is the land of my birth.
All right, good. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I try to keep abreast on a lot of what is happening. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't pay attention, you will not have what it takes to pass on to your kids, to pass on to the young ones who are around you, for them to understand our perspective as to why certain things are happening the way they are happening right now, right? And for them to get a better understanding of what our struggles and our foreparents' struggles were and what they need to do to uphold those values and to enjoy what our forefathers has fought for. So, very, very interesting again, Bishop, that topic that you decided to speak on as it relates to emancipation. Now, looking at our current times, because the world, humanity goes through phases, and at each of those phases, there will be need for exemplary leadership to step forward to create impact, especially in situations that are traumatic and so on. Now, slavery, I can't think of another situation in the history of humankind that can be compared to slavery and the effects of slavery. Right? Now, in this time, there are a lot of trying situations happening. We have a pandemic that is happening along with other social ills, wars, economic turmoil, and all that. And give us a little insight or your point of view as it relates to the need or the value of exemplary or exceptional leadership in times like these.
Okay, thank you. Very, very good question. As you rightly said, we are experiencing a pandemic at this very present moment. And it's not just limited to the Caribbean, it is extended to the nations at large, all over the world. And so it is important as we speak of exemplary leadership and leaders in effect. What we want to know is that something popped up in my mind as you were asking the question. I said, and people are experiencing economical crisis and social crisis because the distancing and all of these things have had an impact on socialization and how we socialize. And that's had an impact to a greater extent on the wider society. So we find that too to be a challenge. And we want to bring to the table now that kind of a leadership that can provide that kind of emotional intelligence to people. Because I watched on television, I saw a lot of persons in the US losing their homes because of unemployment, not being gainfully employed, can't pay their mortgage or their rent, and so they are outside on the streets. And so we want a kind of a leadership now who can steer the people, who can exercise that level of emotional intelligence. As I spoke about, encourage the heart. So people now need that encouragement because people are depressed and people are stressed. And we know from the World Health Organization, from their research, that 2020 is the year whereby a lot of diseases will be experienced among people and this is due to stress. So we find that people are now stressed and people are depressed and some might be suicidal. And so we want to have that kind of a leadership that can give support, that can give encouragement, that can give some level of concern and care for people to know that we have a support system. Though things are going like this, we can rock on this support system. We have somebody who is concerned. So we want that kind of leadership now to go to the extreme whereby they can give that support to persons in need. And remember, as I said before, the exemplary leaders, what they do, they don't think about their own self-gratification. They think about others. So we want that kind of a leadership. And what we want to come up with a mechanism. And so for how is it that we can help persons during this crisis? As you mentioned, trauma. Trauma is something that is very powerful because it impacts the entire human system, emotionally, physically, cognitively. It impacts all of our systems. And so we want that kind of to come up with programs and systems in place. How is it that we can take care of people's welfare and people's well-being? And so that is something to think about because we have, at the end of the day, it is how we help persons, what we do to somebody, the good that we do to somebody, the kindness that we extend to somebody. At the end of the day, that is what matters. So we have to have those mechanisms in place whereby persons can get support, persons can get assistance to move forward in this crisis.
Wonderful. Now, in Jamaica, the leadership in Jamaica, worldwide is generally considered, especially in this pandemic time, as being exemplary. And there are several other models, in several places in Europe that can be considered. Now, how would you rate the leadership of Andrew Holness in this time? Not the JLP. Andrew Holness as a leader in this time in comparison to other leaders of the past who ruled in time or led in times when it was traumatic, either worldwide or for the country.
Okay. I believe that his style of leadership and his system of leadership, I must commend in the context of the fact that he has, as we said before, these leaders, what they do, they model the path, they lead by example. And And I'm speaking specifically to this pandemic, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Because what has happened when we compare Jamaica per capita with other countries like Florida and parts, we realize that they have the same population like us, but they have had it more intense in terms of pandemic because they have not taken due care and concern as it relates to the pandemic. But we find that, as you say, under this leadership, they have taken a great concern and care as it relates to this pandemic. And so sensitization and educational campaigns at the onset were already much disseminated to the public. So the public was already aware of the impact of this virus. And so this proper sensitization and educational campaign were already put on the table. And so greater care has been taken among our people in Jamaica as opposed to America. My mom lives in America and my aunt, and they shared with me that the care that we have taken in Jamaica, they have not taken that care because the people there are still contesting the fact that they don't want to wear masks and they don't believe in wearing masks. And wearing masks is a preventative measure in terms of your health, in terms of the health factor, you not being prone to contract the disease. And so we have taken a very much how should I put it? We have taken a proactive approach as it relates to this pandemic. And can I share with you the vision? Because the vision that I shared, the vision of our leadership, that vision was shared among the people. And this is what exemplary leaders do. They have a vision for the greater good of the people and they share it. So what happened that this vision, the vision of safety, the vision of taking care of the health was shared with the people, and we were made aware of the impact that this virus can have on the immune system. And so as the leaders prepared us and they shared this vision, people buy into the vision. And so we have greater support, and this is what we need. This leadership requires greater support, and we have seen this because we know things have been mandatory and people have to follow through. And this is what exemplary leaders do. They are concerned about the greater good of the people that they lead. They are concerned about the people's welfare and well-being, and they will do anything at any cost to ensure that the people and their lives are safe.
Wonderful. Now, I can compare easily because I live in Canada, which is just north of where the US is, and we see what is happening. US during the past week here reached the mark of 150,000 people dying from the virus, while in Canada it's less than 9,000.
And in Jamaica, it's far, far less. We don't reach that market.
No. Well.
Far from there.
Yeah. Well, comparatively, I mean, I think we are way smaller. You understand? So and to reach 9,000 in Jamaica, that would be chaotic. You know what I mean, on all levels.
It would be. That is so true.
Right,
but if the proper care was not taken,
it could have happened.
We would have reached there. It could have happened. It would have been chaotic, as you rightly said. Mm-hmm. But if proper care and due diligence were not put in place, we would have reached there.
Definitely. And it shows how very, very important and critical leadership is, because people, they take cues from their leaders.
Yes. True.
Mankind, I believe, naturally seek to lead. They seek for a leader, and they expect the leader to lead, and they will naturally take cues from the leader. You know what I mean? Whether they will do it or not, but they will take the cue, right? And I guess if they hear it very often and they see persons around them doing it, they will eventually start doing it too. Because in Canada now, right, the premier just launched a contact tracing app. Now, before this whole contact tracing app thing came about, a lot of persons were very opposed to it for privacy purposes. Now, because the leader has been doing so well in leading the charge, taking care of the needs of the people, right? Showing genuine interest, even to the point where there was a particular city that they could not open up to a stage 2. He said that he will not go to a barbershop to get a haircut until that particular city was okay to open up. And as soon as the city was opened up, he went down there, went into a barbershop down there. You understand?
Yes.
Right? And he got his
These
first
are
haircut.
examples. Yes.
These are examples of exceptional leadership. So now he comes and he said, "Here, what, guys? This app is now available and we want everybody to download the app." So much so, we have taken care of the concern as it relates to privacy, because the Privacy Commission were part and parcel of the development of the app.
Yes.
Right? So you can now feel confident that you can download this app and we are not going to capture particular information that would be...
Yes.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Excellent.
And then we see the opposite on the other side, where the leader there is saying, wear it if you want to. You don't have to. I won't wear it.
Yes.
And all these kind of things. So there are always going to be people who don't want to wear it. And they say, the leader say, you don't have to, so they don't. And then you see the effect.
Excellent.
And
you raise a very, very valid point, if I might interject, because as we speak about the exemplary leaders, we have to ensure they have the ability to enable others to act. Exactly. They have that power, they have that influence to enable others to act. And it's based on their discourse, it's based on their behaviors, based on their actions, as you just mentioned. They have that ability to enable others to act. So if you want others to give support and to be a part of this system, then you have to go forward and show the example, set the example.
Final question: leadership in the church. I don't show it, but I'm close to 50, right? This.
You don't show it. That's true. You don't show it.
This dog is no pup. You know what I mean?
Show it.
I've been around a long time, and growing up in the church back in the day, in the 80s and in the 90s, the experiences in the church as it relates to personal development and spiritual development, a lot of it was hinged on the influence of the leader, the pastor. So much so that there were many households that had men and women living in the household that there would be conflicts because of the pastor. Because pastor say, right? But then there are instances and situations and realities where if a particular pastor is not inclined for the membership to personally develop themselves and advance, that it would serve as a form of restriction for members to go out and to study and go to school and find good jobs and all that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? Now, in this time, people are more liberated because information is out there, so you don't have to depend on just what your pastor says. Now, what value is there is in this time for exceptional leadership in the church as it relates to end time realities?
Okay, good question. As you say before, the pastor, the leadership of the church determines to a greater extent the output or the outcome of the members.
Yes.
And as you rightly said before, gone were the days, and it depends on the capacity of the pastor, it depends on the integrity of the pastor, and in terms of the flexibility of the pastor, because gone were the days when the pastors would have limited members or the congregants from engaging in certain things, as you said, from going to school, going to further their education and so forth and so on. And we are coming from a system whereby whatever the pastors said, that was gospel, that was taken. And as you said, it caused conflict in different homes. But we are now seeing like a paradigm shift taking place. And so the pastor is not viewed in this contemporary society in that light anymore, because there's Yeah, because there is an issue now with integrity, and the pastor's integrity is being questioned. And as a result of this, the pastor is not seen in that light. So gone were the days when a pastor told you something, it was gospel, you just go with it, you just move at it, and you not even question it. We
Exactly.
find in this contemporary society that is not so, because people are more liberal, and people know from experiences, from past experience, they have seen the actions of different pastors. They have held under scrutiny. And so because of this, persons now don't want to trust or rely solely on what the pastors are now saying. And this is bad, as you say, as we prepare for end time, because we want to set up leadership as we speak to in terms of pastors. We want to set up pastors of who can be the change agents, who can create this change as we move into the end time. And so we want these pastors now to be men of integrity or leaders of integrity. We want them to be persons who, because they are men of integrity or leaders of integrity, as they are both males and females, we want persons now to have this trust in them to know that the pastor is standing on the word of God, and the pastor is supposed to live according to the word of God. And so it is that we have seen now a watering down of the gospel. We have seen a watering down of liberty as it relates to people and people's lifestyle. And some persons, from your experience, they have blamed the church, and they have blamed the leadership within the church. And so it is time now for a paradigm shift as it relates to the kind of leadership that is exemplified within the church arena, and now to a kind of leadership that is spiritual based, one that is more geared towards the people and the welfare and the well-being of people. Because I find from my own realities that a lot of these pastors, leaders, their focus is, I could not say totally that they are exemplary leaders, because exemplary leaders are concerned about the greater good of those persons who they lead. They are concerned about the state and welfare and well-being of the people, and the Bible speaks specifically to that, because James in his writing speaks to that. But we find now a set of pastors, leaders, who are now more concerned about their personal well-being, their personal development, and their personal upliftment rather than that of the general congregants. And so that has to change. So the mindset of the pastors, of the leaders, have to change, because if you're going to be an exemplary leader, your mindset has to change. It can't be a selfish or a personal mindset. It has to be a mindset that speaks to the greater good of humanity, that speaks to the fact that this is what we want to put in place. People are demarginalized. People are suffering. People need help. People need assistance. What systems can we put in place to help this? And I find that this is lacking in the church. Greater support is needed. So as we move ahead into the end time, we have to realize that we have to give greater support. Because the truth is that I have found it to be true.
Yes.
If we take care of people's well-being, feed the man, show him love, show him kindness, in effect, what we are doing, we are winning him to the Lord, because eventually he will come. But we find that this is not happening. This is not reality. It is you taking what the man has, even though he doesn't have anything, and grabbing from him, and not even thinking about his welfare or well. And so there has to be a paradigm shift as we forge ahead.
Wonderful points. Wonderful points, Bishop. I agree with all your points. Every nail get licked on them head a while ago, and you are very, very, tactful with it. You know what I'm saying? I see you describing, I see it and I hear you describing, you know what I mean, the obvious motives of some of these pastors. And they use some very nice words as far as adjectives, but we in Jamaica can find some other one that can really be more forceful and all that. All right. There's a question that is asked by someone on Facebook, Iron River. Bishop, is it fair to say the symbiotic relationship of the oppressors, the oppressed, and the oppressed brought about the abolition of slavery and eventually emancipation? Let me read it again, and probably you can understand what this person is saying.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say the symbiotic relationship of the oppressors and the oppressed brought about the abolition of slavery and eventually emancipation.
So the oppression of slavery brought about what?
This person is asking if it is fair to say that the symbiotic relationship between the oppressor and the oppressed brought about the abolition of slavery and eventually emancipation. I don't understand the question. I think this question is missing something else.
Yeah, but I know if the little understanding I get is that action reaction in my mind, the action. So it's like a dual effect.
Okay.
As I said, a symbiotic relationship between the oppression of slavery and the oppressed brought about emancipation and abolition of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a very confusing question. But what I gather from it, I can just share.
Yeah.
The truth is that I believe that in every action, there's always going to be a reaction. That's a commonality among mankind. And so the actual oppression of the oppressed would in effect bring about, because the truth is that as we speak about mankind will only bear oppression to a point and move further. Because all of us, we have a threshold, and when we reach that threshold, we are going to break. Right. And how is it that we break? Because some people break and they retaliate. Some people break and they just become silent, or whatever means they use. And so we can say the oppression of slavery and the oppressed would in effect had triggered off some movement for persons to want to be free. And so I would want to say that there is a relationship there to an extent, in terms of person going through pressure, and the pressure that you are going through would have caused about a change, a shift in your mindset, a shift in your behavior to want to be released from this pressure that you are undergoing. If I have answered the question.
Yeah. Well, I personally think that you have done your best with that question, because the truth of the matter is the oppressed will always want to be free from oppression. But if the oppressor decides that there are benefits to keep the oppressed in that same position, it is not going to happen unless, as you say, there's a breaking point. But there must have been something that triggered that.
Yes.
Right? There must have been something significant that would have triggered that, and from that trigger, something else happened, and then the ball just began to roll, just like what is happening right now.
And so when the pressure is placed on the oppressor, he has to, or if it's a system, that system or that person has to move accordingly, and has to, because it has some impact and effect on that person. Exactly.
Just like what is happening now, I think, with the Black Lives Matter situation. You know what I'm saying?
Excellent.
It is like perfect. That's what's happening right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Where it's just one man.
You put pressure on the system.
Right.
There has to be changes.
Exactly. Anyway, sir, thank you so much. It is late in the night. It's now Emancipation Day. It's now and so on.
Well, we are still 11:20 in Jamaica.
Okay, well, in foreign Jamaica,
And we are not wide up.
Yeah, it is Emancipation Day, so all Jamaicans in foreign celebrating Emancipation Day, even though they're not getting no holiday. But of course, we have a different holiday in Canada this weekend and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But I thoroughly enjoy this kind of discussion, because it is very important that, you know, light is shed on, you know, what type of leadership that can be effective or impactful in making a change. And what I got from your presentation, among other things, is that, you know, effective leadership that shows care and concern and empathy for the needs of the people that they lead. You know, thinking forward, you know, as far as the well-being and the development, you know what I mean, of the people, and putting in place infrastructure and systems that is going to drive that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Those are the things that you would consider as upward and effective, positively effective leadership, because there is the other side where there are leaders who they are just intent on just taking everything valuable from the people and taking it for themselves for their own selfish reasons. You know what I'm saying?
So true.
Yeah. And we see it. We see it in the US now, right now. The welfare of people is now a political situation because there's an election coming up. And it is so unfair. It is so unfair.
Yes.
And I think
different agenda. It's a different agenda.
And I think God is going to deal with them case properly. So we leave all that judgment to God. All right?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Bishop Cornell Simpson. Trust me, there are a lot of bright persons in Jamaica, you know. There are some persons in foreign who them think say, once you come from Jamaica, you know, in a sense. And them not realize that they were in Jamaica, you know. Right? But I find tremendous value. You know what I mean? A lot of brilliant persons in Jamaica. Just that our economy is small, so we're not a whole heap of talk. Money talk every time. You understand? Yeah, but it has been wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is it for the night for us here. And I thank all those who stuck with the program. Okay, it is 5:20 a.m. there in England. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, happy Emancipation Day. Later on in the morning, right, we kick off at 7 a.m. with, you know, worship with Minister Rowan Wade and his wife. And then we go into some presentations. And then in the evening, we have the annual Barrelnation Awards. And there are going to be some surprises when I announce what the awards are. Now, I don't know what type of leadership my Barrelnation people would classify my leadership style to be. But my hope is to be exceptional and exemplary leader that thinks about the welfare of those who are under me, even though it's not official, it is a virtual space, but I have an audience, and that audience listen to me, look to me whenever I am on, and I am sure that whatever I say or do, whether it's good or bad, will have some amount of influence or impact on their decision going forward. All right, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I just play back that same one song. This is the land of my birth. And then I see you again in the morning at 6:45 6:45 Eastern Standard Time, so that we kick off at 7 a.m. sharp. All right? Good night to you, Claire, or good morning to you, Claire Nelson, Mummy Evelyn, Angela Warren, Celeste, Marcia Henry. I hope that you guys learned something today. Brian, big up yourself. Lisa Ann, thank you, big up yourself. Mervis, big up yourself. Jeremiah. There's no place like Jamaica to me, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about your birthday tomorrow, Angela. You know, later on. Go to bed now, Auntie Joanne.